on va pouvoir commencer. Je vous invite donc chacun à prendre place. On est ici assez nombreux dans les locaux de l'Agence de développement du Val-de-Marne. Nous sommes en France, au 23 rue Raspail, à Ivry-sur-Seine. Merci, mesdames et messieurs, d'être venus jusqu'à nous et d'être venus aussi nombreux. Il y a de très belles personnalités, des très beaux dirigeants d'entreprise, parce qu'il y a de très belles entreprises aujourd'hui réunies pour assister au 11e cycle des Matinales. La particularité de ce cycle, c'est que vous êtes ici présents, mais en même temps, parce que grâce à la technique, beaucoup de personnes peuvent nous voir et nous découvrir. Donc, ils entendront nos intervenants et ils échangeront sur nos sujets également, parce qu'ils vont pouvoir vivre en direct, en streaming, les 11e matinales organisées par l'Agence de développement du Val-de-Marne. Alors ça, c'est possible de le faire en direct. Vous serez plusieurs centaines à nous regarder durant toute la matinée. Et puis, bien sûr, vous retrouverez dans les prochains jours, quand vous voudrez, l'intégralité des échanges et des interventions, puisqu'aujourd'hui, nous allons accueillir du beau monde. Il y a un programme extrêmement chargé, ce qui permettra à chacun de pouvoir revenir sur cette matinée. Voilà. Le cycle des matinales, c'est 3 rendez-vous. Premier, c'est aujourd'hui. Vous en aurez 2 autres. Roxane Varsa vous en parlera, qui se tiendront au mois de septembre. Alors, je suis très heureux de vous accueillir comme directeur de l'Agence de développement du Val-de-Marne, parce que depuis sa création, depuis 7 ans, 8 ans maintenant, l'agence de développement qui fait de la promotion-prospection, un peu ce que font les agences de développement en général, a décidé de faire de l'innovation, pour ne pas dire son axe stratégique. Et aujourd'hui, nous qui sommes très présents à l'international, en Espagne, en Italie, au Portugal, même en Chine, aujourd'hui, ce sujet que nous vous proposons va marier, réunir l'innovation et l'international. Parce que nous pensons que c'est extrêmement lié, de plus en plus lié, et que c'est sûrement là où se joue une partie du développement économique de l'avenir, aussi une partie du développement des entreprises. Alors, nous vous montrerons, nous vous parlerons de ces entreprises françaises qui se sont développées à l'international, un peu la clé de leur succès, et en même temps, ces entreprises étrangères qui peuvent s'implanter ou se développer sur notre territoire français. Alors, bien sûr, quand elles le font dans le Val-de-Marne, pas besoin de vous dire que nous sommes particulièrement heureux parce que nous avons toute une palette de services que nous pouvons leur proposer au sein de l'agence de développement du Val-de-Marne. Alors, je ne serai pas plus long parce que, comme je le disais, la matinée est chargée, mais je suis très content de retrouver Roxane Varsa. Vous la connaissez déjà un peu parce que bien qu'elle vive à Londres, elle est très connue dans l'innovation parce qu'elle a à son actif plusieurs associations, notamment les associations autour des entreprises et des startups, mais également des femmes qui occupent des fonctions dans des entreprises, des fonctions de direction. Elle participait à Matinov de 2011, qui se tenait au pavillon Baltard. Elle participera à Matinov 2012, qui se tiendra le 22 novembre prochain. C'est une grande convention d'affaires avec plus de 600 entreprises. Je vois des dirigeants d'entreprises qui participaient à Matinov, qui se tiendra le 22 novembre prochain dans l'aéroport d'Orly. J'espère que Roxane fera un peu ce qu'elle a fait l'année dernière. Et puis, si vous voulez participer à Matinov, sachez-le, c'est gratuit pour tous ceux qui participent au cycle des matinales. Il suffit d'aller sur Internet, sur je participe@matinov.com. Et là, vous pouvez d'ores et déjà vous inscrire, sachant que, bien évidemment, tous les supports et outils de communication vont se développer durant l'été. Puis, vous trouverez toutes nos informations sur notre site valdemarne.com, comme actuellement, vous pouvez nous regarder en direct. Voilà, alors Roxane, tu es chargée de faire vivre cette matinée. Tu le feras surtout en anglais, parce que c'est très international, ce cycle numéro 11. Et puis la prochaine fois, au mois de septembre, je te promets que je parlerai un petit peu anglais également. Comme ça, toi, tu parleras un petit peu plus français. Donc, Roxane Varsa.
D'accord. Bon, je ne sais pas si ça marche. Donc, je vais passer en anglais. So, this is the first of a 3-part mini conference series. This one's going to be about innovation and the international, kind of innovation without borders. We've invited some of France's best startups to present what they're doing, how they're growing, how they're developing, how they're innovating, and some of the world's best startups that have come to France to share their local experiences, how they came here, what they're doing. The next edition will be September 4th, will be about innovation and funding. So we'll be talking about kind of what is available in France, but also around the world for entrepreneurs and startups that are seeking funding, what challenges they're facing, and how they're getting their startups funded. And then the final edition, which is something completely new, we're going to try a pitch session that's going to be inspired by the UK series Dragon's Den, where entrepreneurs essentially, we're going to pick 8 different startups to come and pitch for 8 investors and VCs. And essentially, the VCs will have to give real-time feedback as to whether or not they would invest. And these are actually companies that are searching funding when they come here. So if anybody would like to apply, we've actually put the link online, which is bit.ly, bit.ly/les Matinales. And startups can start to apply now through August 15th. So that will be the 3-part conference. So I guess without further ado, we're going to invite the first speakers to come up. We have 2 amazing French startups, BlaBlaCar and Jolibox, that are going to be talking about how they've been developing incredibly rapidly internationally. If we get a round of applause, thank you. Sorry, we have limited microphone, so we're going to share. Great. So thank you both for being here. We're going to start first, because maybe not everybody knows both of your companies. Actually, I'm going to ask maybe Quentin to start by explaining Jolibox. It's not an entirely new concept, what you're starting. It existed already in the US in the form of Birchbox, but do you want to say when you started and what you're doing for people who don't know the business?
Yeah. Should we do it in English?
If you prefer.
No, I don't prefer.
You don't prefer. If you prefer in French, it's okay.
No matter. So yes, Jolibox is a concept which comes from the US, and basically we ship every month a small box where you can find 4 to 5 cosmetic products in travel size in order to get the user being able to test the product. So basically, when you are a client of Jolibox, you can try every month new products that are usually the new ones from the industry. And so when you like it, you can buy it on our website. The idea that in this industry there is a lot of innovation, and people it is very hard to make your choice in your cosmetic products, and those ones are very expensive. So you don't want to buy something which is 50 euros if you're not sure it's going to be the right one. So with us for only 13 euros per month, you can try a lot of products, find the right one, and then buy it on our website.
Great, thank you. So essentially a box of cosmetic samples to try, similar to Birchbox in the US. And Nicola, you started, I think you're a founder of the company. So it was covoiturage before, now it's BlaBlaCar. You guys have a really interesting kind of you've brought carpooling to Europe in a really interesting way. Do you want to talk about how it works?
Yeah, so essentially BlaBlaCar, which is also known as covoiturage.fr in France, and that's how it started. It's a car sharing service that connects drivers with people looking for a ride. So essentially the way it works very simply is, as a driver, let's say if you're driving from, say, London to Manchester and you have empty seats in your car, you can go on the site, post your trip and say, I have 3 empty seats in my car, and I would rent those seats for, let's say, £20, right, to put that in the UK context. And then passengers or travelers would go on the site, very much like they would go on booking.com or Expedia, and they search for trips, right? So they search for London, Manchester, find a driver, book their seat online, and travel in the seat for, say, £20, right? Which is typically a lot cheaper than any other option. So we started that, to talk about the company, we started that initially in 2006 in Paris. We had sort of a long phase between 2006 and 2008, 2009, which was really sort of the garage phase of the company, creating the community with almost no funding. And we really started, I mean, we had the first employee in early 2009, and we've seen pretty interesting growth from 2009. And today we're pretty close to 2 million members. We are in 4 countries. So we're in France, obviously, in the UK, Spain, Italy. And we're thinking about expanding in the rest of Europe pretty soon, actually.
Okay, so you actually touched on what I was going to bring up next. Is you're in 4 different countries: France, UK, Spain, Italy, after you acquired a company there.
Right.
And you actually have a very similar development strategy. You're also in France, UK, Spain. I don't know where you're planning on going next or if you've launched in other countries since we last spoke, but it's kind of interesting because neither of you have gone the traditional kind of we're going to the US right away. Do you want to talk about why you've developed in these markets, the ones that you've chosen so far?
Yep. So coming back quickly on the Jollybox expansion, the Jollybox was created a year ago, a year and a few days, and so we launched France in July. In December 2011, we launched the UK and Spain in February 2012. Just to let you know, we did just two international expansion by acquisition because it was faster than doing it ourselves. And to respond to your question, I would say that there are a lot of European synergies. For our business, we have two main businesses. Our B2C business, which is selling our boxes to the client, and our B2B business, which is getting partnerships with the brands from the cosmetic industry. And if you want to look at what were the synergies for us going international, it was mostly on the B2B side. So we had analyzed that we could have huge synergies with brands European-wide. So if I get a contact, for instance, with L'Oréal in France, it's very likely that they can help me provide the UK market. So for us, it was mainly this reason, and then I think Nicolas, we will agree. Then when you expand in Europe, you have regular synergies, which are IT, creative services, and a lot of stuff. For us, the main reason was the B2B synergies, and it was at the first time it was a synergy, so helping us to go in the UK and Spain, and now it's kind of a barrier to entry because even when we compete in France or in the UK with other players, it helps us that we can have a much wider offer to the brands.
Great. Nico, you guys did one acquisition. So he said that he always acquired his competitors or whoever was local. You guys have done some organic growth, some acquisition. Do you want to talk about what differences and why?
Yeah, I mean, we started pretty early doing international, and one of the reasons is, I mean, if you think of international expansion in Europe, what probably makes sense actually doesn't work. In a sense that if you wait and prove your business model and grow your community or grow your service in one country, by the time you're done and you think, okay, now I should expand to UK or Italy or Spain or even the US, typically it's too late, right? I mean, people have either cloned your service or they've done the same thing locally. So what we decided to do was very early on, actually, before we even monetized the French market, before we even had scale in the French market, we launched Spain. And that was 2.5 years ago. That was early 2010. So it was before seed funding, before anything. So back then, M&A was not even an option because we had no money, right? So and we were not even structured to do that. So we decided to do that organically. We've done the UK organically as well. And then for Italy, it was a different story because there was a great local team actually doing exactly what we do in Italy. So we had a long discussion with the guys, and the team was fantastic. And at the end, we decided to do a deal with them and integrate them into BlaBlaCar. And to be clear, it was a pretty small acquisition. So it was very much a case of acquiring a team and talent, more so than a company or a P&L or financials.
Okay. And you guys actually had a very interesting situation where essentially a crisis helped the company gain more users. Do you want to talk about what that was and how it worked?
Yeah, we had quite a few. I know the one you're referring to, I think, but you're referring to the Ash Cloud, right?
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, perhaps to explain that, I mean, one of the key challenges we have is creating this community, which is tough to create initially because it's tough to create liquidity in the community. So essentially what you need lots of drivers, lots of passengers going in the same time on the website so that they find each other and your service takes off, right? So in a way, we need help from sometimes external factors. So either you can replicate that with marketing, or you have strikes in France, which helped us a lot actually in terms of PR, or you have the Ash Cloud. And that one was not planned. And clearly it helped us a lot actually in especially in Spain, actually, when we started the service in Spain. We get a lot of PR in France, in Spain, even in the UK, actually, about people being stranded. And BlaBlaCar became like a very obvious solution. And that was, for lots of people, that was the first time they discovered the service. And then they realized, hey, it could be useful for something else, and it get going.
So I have another question then that's kind of related, is that when you first start a business that's encouraging people to get into this cars of strangers, essentially, I'm sure that there was a lot of hesitation, and probably in some markets more than others. I think maybe in the UK they're a little bit more hesitant. What do you do to kind of get them to use the service and to feel safe?
So we do, that's a key question, right? So if you think of all these what's called collaborative consumption companies where people share assets, whether it's a flat, whether it's a car, I mean, the key problem is obviously trust. And how do you create and foster trust in your community? And initially we've done lots of things. So I'm not going to list them all, but probably the key thing was self-regulation at the beginning, where you have ratings between users and drivers would rate passengers, and very slowly you get very rich feedbacks between drivers and passengers, and you're not really stepping into a stranger's car because you have ratings, you have a picture, you have user profile, you have Facebook connections, and now we do more and more of that, checking phone numbers, checking bank accounts, and so on and so on. So,
Okay.
so that's how we create. That's how we crack the trust issue. And just to finish on that, essentially, it gets easier and easier because as your community grows, you have more and more data and more ratings in your community, and it gets easier and easier to accelerate.
Okay, and Quentin, essentially the same question for you is that it might not be the most obvious thing for someone to purchase a box of samples that potentially they could get free elsewhere. What are you guys doing to really drive users to purchase the box?
When you engage in the Jollybox community, you do not get on your box. Basically, you get on the first day of the month your box, but you also get a magazine that we do ourselves with a lot of beauty tips, beauty advice, etc. Then we invite all our community to events monthly so that they can meet the brands, discover new stores, new products, etc. And so it's a whole community. That's the first, I would say my first response is that you do not buy only samples. And then I think one of the bases of our model is that it stands on the surprise effect, and so therefore it's like kind of you receive a gift every month, and so you don't think about of the value of the samples. You think of what this did for me, and did I get other stuff? We try to put some lifestyle products, etc. So people do not think of the value of the sample, but think of the chain they have to test new products, sometimes before even they get into the market, etc., etc.
Okay, so now tell me about the differences that you actually see in the users. What have you actually changed in terms of the product for the different markets that you're in?
So we have a specificity is that we try to go internationally with kind of a made in France offer. So it's in our NDA not to NDA, yes?
DNA.
Yeah. DNA, sorry. DNA to not to change too much our offer, because we think that the French cosmetic industry is very famous, that people internationally like the way French people wear their clothes, use cosmetics, etc. So we do not change it too much. What we have observed is that it's very specific to our business, but UK people are more interested in makeup than they are in France. French girls take very much care of their skin, rather they do not do it that much in Spain or the UK. And in Spain, they have less. They do not like that much prestigious brands. They are more like fancy colors, etc. So that's it. But no, I would say that we have some other difference on the B2B side, which is, again, very important for us. I would say that the UK market is very much data-driven. They love to have very deep data. They love to get an ROI on every operation they do, whereas in Spain and France, they are more eager to do something which is more soft touch. They can imagine there is an impact, but it's not very sure. So that was a big difference for us.
So you're in one of the markets where essentially the French brand,
Yep.
kind of, you can really leverage it to your advantage. I don't know if that's the case for car sharing.
No, not really, because there is not really because it's something new, right? So our challenge is more changing behaviors. So you had this question about trust and safety, and for us it's really getting into people's mind that you can travel in a different way. And to be honest, that's more or less the same challenge whether you in the UK or in Spain or in Italy. Then different countries would have different issue. I mean, it could be like the UK seem to be paranoid about the insurance problem more so than other countries, but To be honest, there's small differences. I mean, the key challenge is behavioral.
So other than the insurance issue, you don't see a lot of differences between Spain and France and the UK and Italy?
I mean, not really. I think it's mostly, the way we think of countries is mostly structural, initially, at least. It's really making sure that, the factors actually that promote or are good for car sharing are there, like high petrol prices or fairly high transport prices. I mean, obviously, if you go in a country where petrol is free, I'm not sure people would share their car, at least initially. And then you go into the cultural differences, but we see that as, I mean, they matter, but it's almost like second order to education. So the key is like, how do you educate the market to do something new? And sharing your flat or sharing your car is something fairly new. So the biggest barrier is not, in a way, it's not so much like how much online marketing can you put to acquire new members. It's how much education can you put in the market so that people understand they can do that.
Okay. And in order to enter these markets, do you both feel that it's necessary to have a local team
Yes.
for every market?
I mean, in
that
our
you're going
case,
to
yes,
enter?
because we do PR and education. I don't think, if it was just marketing, I guess perhaps you could do that globally and you say, okay, let's run some advertising online and that's going to work. Because we rely on PR and education, yeah, we clearly need, I mean, in our case, we need local teams. So today we have 4, soon 5 people in Spain. We have 2, 3 pretty soon in Italy, and we have 2 in the UK.
Quentin, same for you? You feel that you always need to have a local team?
It's very important, yeah. I rebound on what Nicolas said earlier on. I think with the 2 acquisitions I made was for the teams I made there. And if you don't have the right team locally, you cannot do anything. For us, it's both important on the B2B side and B2C side that you have the right people talking to the right brands, having the right words for the community. You don't talk exactly the same way to the UK community and the French community. So it's very much important that you have market intelligence, market knowledge, market connections, maybe mostly for the PR, that you know the right people locally. And I would say that even if there are some synergies that are important, I would say the first synergies in the end is the experience you have, but in the end you start a new story in every country. And so we've been running France for a year now. I have a pretty good view on what is the perfect story to build this business and having to grow. But when I redo it in the UK or redo it in Spain, maybe it doesn't go exactly the same way. So you have to rebuild the business in every country, and you do some stuff well because of your experience, but you missed at some places you didn't miss on the French story. So it's 3 independent businesses, and the better you know your own business, the more experience you get from your first venture. For us in France, the better you can go straight to the scale in every country without doing too much pain.
Okay, so you actually both come from a financial background. I don't know if you both know that. And now you're both on the entrepreneur side. You've both raised funding as well, which is sometimes not always evident for a French startup. And it's done differently here, obviously, than elsewhere. So if you guys could also maybe I could start with Nicolas. You could talk a little bit about when you raised, with who, how, just kind of give the background on why you guys decided to go the route that you did financially.
Yeah. So I don't really have a financial background, actually. I have an engineering background.
You were at a VC.
Spent 7 years actually working for a startup as an engineer, and then spent a bit of my life in a venture capital firm in London. So and then BlaBlaCar. So we had 2 rounds essentially. We had a round with Isaïe initially here in France, and that was 1.2 roughly million euro, and that was in 2010. And then we had another round in early 2012 with Excel Partners from London of $10 million. And so that's kind of the story. I mean, the way we raised was always, it was always to go to the next step, right? So essentially, when we raised from Isaïe, the challenge was how do we monetize the French market, and how do we start even new countries before we know? So we had to find investors that were willing to take the risk on monetization, but also sort of double down, right? Which is like start new countries before you even know you're going to be able to monetize. And with Excel, it was really the case of scaling, right? So it enabled the acquisition of Posto in Auto in Italy, growing the team and accelerating in other countries.
And so for people who are not familiar with Isaï's model, do you want to give a little bit of background to what the fund looks like?
Yeah, so essentially it's managed by Jean-David Chamboredon, that probably most people here would know, and the money is coming from lots of web entrepreneurs in France. So it's a fantastic network for entrepreneurs like us actually to connect with other entrepreneurs, other CEOs actually that went through the same problems. And we have Pierre Kosciusko-Morizet on the board. Actually, was the founder and CEO of Price Minister, which was a great help actually to think about how we're going to monetize. I mean, we knew how we wanted to monetize, but to actually implement the monetization of the site. And I guess then everybody knows Accel Partners, which is pretty well known in the US.
So now I have to ask you, and I'm going to ask Quentin the same question in a minute, but everybody always says it's so difficult to raise early stage in Europe, particularly in France. Do you agree with that opinion, having raised with someone like Isaï?
I think it's difficult everywhere. I think people sort of fantasize about the fact that it's easier in the US because there is more, but I think you have also more startups and more competition. So to be honest, I don't know if it's harder to raise early stage capital. I mean, if you think of France, or even the UK, now you have so many, especially in internet. I mean, probably specifically in internet, you have quite a few like early stage funds, whether it's Isaï or ProFounder or Atomico, or lots of these funds actually back early stage entrepreneurs. So I think it's more. It's always challenging, of course, but it's more a case of connecting with the right people early on. So essentially, whenever you want to raise money, probably start early, not raising money, but connecting with investors just so that they know who you are. And when you're ready to fundraise, it's an easier discussion.
And you raised pre-revenue. You didn't have a business model essentially in place.
No, we had some revenue, but initially it was pretty small revenue. So it was technically not pre-revenue, but almost.
Okay, Quentin, do you want to give first the background of who you've raised with, how much, and then say if you agree with his opinion or not?
Yeah, so as I said earlier on, the company was created in July 2011, and we raised money in September 2011, so very quickly after funding the company. We raised €1 million with Alven Capital, which is a pretty good fund in France, if not the best, I would say. Why did we fund? I think, as Nicolas said, we had this vision that if we wanted to be European, we had to be very quickly because the business would be copied very quickly in Europe, and we felt that being the first one to get in the market was very important. And looking backward, I think it was the right thing because when you come the first, you have the first PR impact, you have the first consumer impact, B2B impact. So that was, I think, the right choice. We didn't know exactly how we would spend the money, but we felt that we would need some money to do this. And coming back on the difficulty of raising, I would say that luckily for us, it was not that a matter. First, because I had a financial background, so it was easier for me to communicate on a business plan, etc. And second, because the business was pretty appealing. And so if I can give some advice on how to raise, I would say that you have to be very trustful with your with the VC, get a very good fit with them, and do not overestimate the market, underestimate, be transparent on your threats, your thoughts, etc. And because when maybe not for second or third rounds, but for the very first round, the seed round, it's only a matter of confidence that the VC have on people. They only bet on people because the idea can be a good one. If it's not well executed, they cannot do anything. And if the idea is not a good one, but the management team is a good one, you can do many things with first traction. So just try to find the good people and interest them in your business, and they will, I think, bet.
So that's very good advice. So now 1 year later, after you raised, what should we expect to see in the future? Are you guys going to be launching in other nearby markets? Are you going to be releasing everybody talks about different types of boxes that could come out. What should we expect to see from Jolie Box?
Yeah. So we are pretty happy with the European expansion. I'm pretty happy that we did the good choice historically, and also I think the European synergies we had imagined in the past are there, so we're going to continue our European expansion because it's financially more interesting to go in Italy or Germany than go in China, because it's much more difficult. And then our business is a business that you do on a pretty big market. You cannot do it in Luxembourg or very small markets. So I think the next step would be very big markets where our brands want us to go. So maybe the US, China, Japan, etc. And then coming back on your question on verticals, I think the beauty vertical has a lot of features that other verticals do not have. So if we want to go on other verticals, we would have to rethink a little bit the business. We are already doing this for men. We just launched for babies. So we are working on this, seeing if we can launch it on a monthly basis. But then if we want to go out of the cosmetic industry, we will have to think twice.
You're not giving cosmetics to babies, I hope.
Yeah, we are. No, we're doing a special box with cosmetic products for both mums, babies, and some lifestyle products for the baby. And maybe for the next one, we'll have some educational products.
Great. And Nicola, how about the future for BlaBlaCar?
Well, essentially for us, it's going to be more countries. Probably in Europe and pretty soon.
Can you give details on which ones?
No, because we don't even know, so we're still thinking. I mean, probably in Europe initially. So more countries, more social. So we talked about trust, so we're going to build more and more social features on the product, and clearly more mobile because our application suits pretty well your mobile users, and we've seen tremendous growth. Actually, we started pretty early on with mobile. We had an iPhone app in 2009. And now we see more and more traffic on iPhone and even Android today. So we're going to push that even more.
Okay, great. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Merci.
So we have time if anybody has a quick question, to take one or two questions. If not, I might look at Twitter and see if we have anything. This will take a minute. Nobody has a question. Yeah. We'll bring you the microphone. If you can actually introduce yourself first.
Yeah, I'm Martin Lazarus. My name is Martin. We have a project project in the biotech industry. So we just kind of come out, find what Val-de-Marne can offer. We would like to know your sales, what you're doing exactly since you started.
Sorry?
Your sales figures. What exactly are you doing as sales since you started?
When I started?
What is your sales?
Today?
Yeah, so today.
Okay, I cannot say it exactly. I can say that we will do more than a few millions euros for the first year.
Thanks.
Is there any other question from the audience? Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you, guys.